I'm gonna pass on to Alice here, who also raised her hand. The floor is yours. Good to hear from you, see you. And I know I was talking with Mom, right? I think I last left off talking with Mom. And let's see where we left off. You were also working on, I think, with CMG. That was around February, I think. Or we were looking at first lien HELOC options, something like that.
She's still working on that. She had some trading classes and things like that she has to take care of. And also, she's not sure that it would be beneficial for her at this time. So she's going to get with you on that.
Okay.
Because she's in retirement, so I don't, and I think the fees might be a little high for an all-in-one versus what she has now. So she's at 3%, and I don't think she wants to lose the 3%. So she's debating on whether or not to do extra payments or just continue with the bi-weekly payments to pay it off a little quicker, and then do extra payments when she can, or do the all-in-one. So we're going to get back to you on that. But I had a question on this gentleman, the one that you just analyzed.
Yeah.
How would you be able to figure out how much extra he would be paying if he did the last option with the whole life insurance policy, right? So it would take him longer.
Correct.
Because he's putting money into the policy. How much would he be putting into the policy each month? Would that be like 10,000 a month or 5,000 a month, or?
So it would be equal to what we would be sending as an extra payment to our mortgage to try to make it apples to apples. So if he says my cash flow per month, right, we have to get that number. So let's just say his cash flow is 2,000 a month or 3,000 a month, whatever that number is. Then I design a policy saving that exact amount either each month or do it on an annual basis, like one big lump sum payment or monthly payments. We figure out which one works best for him. And then I illustrate how that money would grow over the next few years. And with most of the cases that I've worked on where people went that route, compared to if they would have just made extra payments, you're tacking on at least a year and a half, maybe longer, to that particular strategy. So if extra payments gets me out of debt, completely debt-free in 9 years, then the life insurance strategy, on average, maybe tack on another year and a half. Because not only do you have to fund the asset, and it takes time for it to really grow. It's not going to be growing at 10% or anything like that. It's going to be growing at very, very low numbers.
Yeah.
Then you finally build up the capital enough. Then you take a loan, pay the balance off. You still have the loan, right? So now we got to pay back the loan and continue to fund the policy. So you would pay the loan back with the cash flow gained from no longer making that mortgage payment. You're now sending that to pay back your loan, and you're continuing to send 3,000 a month to the policy. As the loan gets paid down and more cash value builds up, then he does it again on the second property, right? And would create that,
so on and so forth,
and so on and so on. But it would take longer. But also recognize that when he takes out that loan, he's still going to be earning interest on all that money as if he didn't borrow it. So this is where he gets compound growth while paying off debt and recapturing interest and gaining cash flow. So he's getting that benefit. When you're just paying off debt, that's all you're doing. You're just paying off debt. Once it's done, it's done. And the reason why I present those different things, especially when I'm talking to people, say 10 years out from retirement or less, sometimes it's worth saying, okay, instead of getting out of debt faster, what if we simply created more guaranteed income vehicles so that when you do hit this retirement age, you're not stressing out when you now make less money, because we created enough guaranteed tax-free income or guaranteed income in general, which that income could continue to pay off your debts. And then the debts got paid off, and that created
Mhm.
more abundance in that person's life versus the reverse, where they're like, okay, now that I'm debt free, but I'm only got 5 years left, Denzel, to retire. I got to invest, invest, invest. People mess themselves up sometimes because now they're thinking time has shrunk. I have to take risk to now make a bunch of money. I think in Pravin's case, he's got very good income. It didn't sound like he was trying to leave his job anytime soon. I didn't hear that. He's got young children, daughter just graduated, another 17 years old. And the idea of paying off all these properties, we're talking about 246 million plus of debt. Yeah, that's definitely not a 5-year journey. I'm thinking that's, you know, an 8-9-ish year journey. By 62 or sooner, I'd say all that's gone. And that's just dialing in, right? So we also want to look at everything. So that's how I piece those things together. Was there another question on that? Did I answer that, or did I dance around the question?
Well, yes, no, you answered it pretty succinctly.
Okay.
So while he's building up this, let's say it would be maybe $6,000 a month, right?
Okay.
Approximately.
Mm-hmm.
So does he wait until he has the whole
Correct. He waits.
114,000 to pay it off? Or
Yes.
whatever that number 2 property was. I didn't see how much it was, 114 or 100.
Yeah. So property number 2, 244,000. That's the one that we would go
Oh,
after.
right.
So let's say it takes him 2 or 3 years of funding a policy to get to a point where we can take a loan out and wipe out the balance. So there's 2 ways to actually do it. Either I make a chunk out of my policy one time a year, every year,
Right.
or what's more conservative to do, a more conservative route, is you just let the money build, because life's going to happen, you know, kid needs this, someone gets sick. So when he stays liquid, where he's like, I have the intent to pay off this property, I'll definitely do it.
Right.
But in the meantime, I'm gonna save up the money in a separate account over here and just have that money grow for a couple of years. And once it's built up enough capital, then I'm gonna take a loan, wipe out that balance, recapture the remaining interest that was left on that balance. So the conservative route would say, wait, do one big lump sum out of the policy. Now it's done. That might take, you know, a couple years, depending on, again, the amount of cash flow he has.
Right. That's 294,000, right? So it's not a small chunk of change. It's
Two,
substantial,
yeah,
I
240.
think.
Yeah, we're at 244, and you know,
244.
the
Okay.
mortgage is 2125, 6.99. You know, a lot of that 2125 is probably interest. So, you know,
Yeah.
2-3 years from now, you know, it's still going to be in the 200s, you know, owed.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah, it's getting paid down, but it's still about 200 would be left. Okay. So how do you measure? So with the mortgage, it's amortized interest. With the life insurance policy, so he's paying what was the interest rate on the mortgage?
6.99 is what he.
Right. So 7%. And then on the life insurance policy, he'd probably make anywhere from 4 to 6%. Is that safe to say?
That's very safe. Yeah. And
Okay. But
and
that's
in
not
the
amortized, right?
correct.
That's simple interest,
That's just compounding interest
compounding.
growth, right? So whatever the amount of money that's there, just think of it as like a savings account. You know, if I have 50 grand in a savings and I earn 3%, just 50 grand times 3%. That's what he earned,
Right.
right? And then the
Okay.
following year, more money went in, plus the rolled interest earnings, right, into that account. And now you get compound interest on interest growth. So it ends up being a higher number. But when you're funding a whole
Okay.
life contract, the very first 2 years, you're actually getting a negative return. So let's say he put in 50 grand of contributions into a whole life. He's not going to have 50 grand at the end of the year. right? It's going to be less. So it's going to take about 4, maybe upwards of 5 years, maybe 6, by the time his money even just breaks even, right? The amount of money he's paid in,
Hmm.
say he paid in $200,000 over 4 years. By year 4, year 5, there's 200,000. So there's not even like positive growth for like the first couple years in it. Then it starts to take off, after years 6, 7 in the account. Meanwhile, he's still paying all this interest over here.
Yeah.
So again, for some people are like, that doesn't make sense, Denzel. Like I'm not seeing the vision here. That's totally fine. You don't have to, right? Like you get to really decide what makes the most sense for that person to take. You could also do the same thing without a whole life insurance contract and say, okay, what if I funded a Roth, my 401k, a brokerage account, and took risk? And if I can average more than 6.99%, if I can earn 12%, say double the rate,
Yeah.
then I'll absolutely have more money than the amount of interest I paid over here. It got offset by the growth of my investment. Only problem is he's got to take risk.
Yeah.
He could lose money, right? With the 401k, it comes with fees and management fees. With a financial advisor, if I have someone managing my portfolio, there's up and down years, there's fluctuations. So that might be too stressful for the person to even say, not worth it. I'm fine with just recapturing 6.99% over here, tax free, guaranteed.
Hmm.
So the next equivalent is a whole life insurance contract, which can do the same thing on a guaranteed basis and say, yeah, whatever interest you pay over there, I can guarantee will recapture almost all of it and have this nest egg of wealth built up, right? And it accomplished the same goal. It just took a little longer.
So that would be more like the whole life insurance policy plan would be more like a 5 or 6 year plan for him to pay off that first property.
Yeah, depending on
Okay.
whatever his cash flow is. So if I only have
Right.
3,000 a month cash flow, that's 36,000 a year. Only 4 years out, I only got 144K built up. So in that regard, it's going to take like 6 years to build up the money needed.
Right.
I'll be at 216. So probably like year 5, year 6 is where he could take a loan and probably wipe the
Right.
mortgage out.
But if he did it, like, let's say he had the 8,000 a month, because we're not including his wife's income in this. So let's just say he had 8,000 a month, then that would be more like a 3 year plan,
Oh,
right? Or 3.5 year.
yeah, yeah,
And then he could knock that one property out, do that again for another 2 or 3 years, because now he has money. He's paying now. He's paying that whole life insurance policy off. Well, he paid the property off, so all that money is going into the whole life insurance plus his cash flow.
correct, correct. And
Okay.
the amount of loan interest that he
Now
pays,
building up
yeah, the amount of loan interest that he now pays in the policy is less than what he'd be paying on the mortgages. So
the mortgage interest.
that's where we start to see that offset. And then
Uh-huh.
there's all these other benefits that comes with life insurance that we're not even like really discussing here, like the death
Yeah,
benefit and
that's
living,
fine.
all those good things, right? But setting that all to the side and just looking at cash value growth to the amount of interest I pay over here, we know for a fact you're gonna take longer. It's gonna cost you more interest over here. You'll end up getting all of that back, especially if he looks 15 years out of owning that whole life.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Imagine having basically 1.1 million plus in a cash value life insurance contract, like, and all you had to do was just save it first, then borrow, pay
Mm.
off the debt, pay yourself back, rinse and repeat. So when you look at the full longevity of it, you're like, oh, like there's a lot more that can come with that down the line. It's hard to see in the first few years. So typically what happens with a lot of clients is we are doing velocity because I get that speed and efficiency, and we get some early wins. even if he
Yeah.
said, all right, you know what, I'll do velocity on property number 2, get like an early win, see how that feels, look at the math behind all of it, see how long it took me. Okay, it took me 3 years to knock that out. Right, it took me 2.5, and then he's like, you know what, let's do the whole life strategy. I want to start building legacy wealth for the entire family without taking risk to make more money. I'm going to get these guaranteed dividends and growth inside my policy, and I'll still be able to pay off my debt, become debt free in still a reasonable time frame. It's not a dramatic difference, right? So again, if velocity banking was 7 years, 8 years, think of a whole life insurance contract being just tack on another year and a half at the very least, and maybe as high as 2.2, 2.4 years. Not a huge difference. And then,
Not a huge
yeah,
difference. And the difference is there that then you actually have this policy where you, before,
yeah,
if you did the first 2 of your plans, you don't have that whole life insurance policy. So
no,
you don't have that huge death benefit and
right,
the potential then to utilize it when you want to take out 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever it is, right?
right.
Because you're able to, with that policy, let's say in 15 years that he wants to use it, he can take out $2,000 a month if he wants to live on it, because now it's over $1 million, right?
Yeah, or even more than that.
Yeah.
Got a lot,
Or for a vacation,
yeah,
$5,000, right?
lot
Yeah.
of
So he
flexibility
can,
in terms of what
right.
you can
Okay.
use. On this side of the equation, the person that just pays off all their debt gets to beat their chest and say, I'm debt free. But now they've got
Right.
all that equity locked in there. The only way they can access that equity is by borrowing. Versus the person over here says, it took me a little bit longer, but I have hundreds of thousands of dollars growing in an account that once was producing negative returns in the early years. Now it's producing positive tax-free guaranteed returns between 4 and 6%. And when you look at the trajectory of dividends in the life insurance industry, it's pointing upward now, which is so unique, really cool. So we can be on a path of higher dividend payouts, better performance. And he ultimately, when you look at his whole entire financial portfolio, assets, liabilities, investments, guarantees, that his whole portfolio, you can make an argument, would actually perform better over the long
Yeah.
run. So these are not light decisions, right? It can be pretty heavy. The good news though is that you I believe it's hard to go wrong once you pick the strategy and you have that accountability and support. And we can always make tweaks. We can always say, okay, we started off here, but we didn't end there. That's why I always tell people, like, velocity banking is great, but we don't end with velocity banking, right? We eventually want to graduate out of there where we're leveraging our own assets, such as cash value life insurance, your own investments, where you're able to recapture all those interest costs, all those dollars. Helpful? Good?
Yeah. Really helpful.
So
Very, very thoughtful. I guess, Pravin, you have a lot to think about.
yeah, so for you, Alice, just to close out here real quick. So we're due for a call, right? Just you and I.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
mom, we're gonna have a follow-up with mom. I'm gonna get an update on her numbers. I remember the action steps I basically told her was we wanted to look at Space Coast Credit Union, right?
She did.
And then CMG, first lien HELOC, get the cost, which she probably did. So she'll come back to me and we'll go over, okay, what did it cost? And taking a look at, yeah, does it make sense to pay your house off? Or do you want to focus on maybe creating more guaranteed income, maybe looking at annuities? Because that was the other thing I said. I was like, I want to connect you to Daniel, because
Right.
maybe there's a world where we just simply solve for more income throughout your retirement years and let that increased income just naturally pay off your home and eventually remove that obligation altogether,
Yeah.
keeping you at that lower rate that she has
Mm-hmm.
without having to
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice that for a variable higher rate with closing costs.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to look at those numbers. So probably next week sometime she's going to give you a call. I mean, we'll send you an email and we'll get on your Calendly.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And with that, I think we're good unless someone else wanted to raise their hand, ask a question. If not, we'll close out here. And I'm going to keep doing more of these sessions. It's just straight Q&A, run numbers. Let's get to work.